Because President Trump may have been a little bit embarrassed by the release of those tax returns. How much do you think the claims of these survivors are worth? As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
But obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like...
If you want to see what happens when a constitutional scholar meets a witness who thinks she's above the rules, this is it. Congressman Jamie Raskin just gave Attorney General Pam Bondi a masterclass in federal law, and she didn't take it well. The stakes? $10 billion. That is the staggering amount Donald Trump is suing the IRS for, and Raskin is exposing a massive conflict of interest. Can a president's own subordinates settle a case that puts billions in their boss's pocket? But instead of answering, Bondi did what she does best. She deflected, she interrupted, and she threw out insults about Trump derangement syndrome. But Raskin wasn't having it. He looked the Attorney General of the United States in the eye and reminded her, "In this room, you are not the boss. You have no choice but to follow the rules." This is the Democracy Watch breakdown you cannot miss.
Recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by saying I appreciate what you said, Attorney General Bondi, and you said it to me personally, that you take the personal security of every member of Congress seriously and that people can contact you about that. And in these times, that's a very serious matter. So I thank you for that. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Constitution is the Domestic Emoluments Clause. And it says that the president is limited to his salary in office and cannot receive any other money from the federal government while he's in office. It cannot be increased by $1. This president is the first president in U.S. history who has repeatedly sued the federal government for $230 million for the judicial search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, which was perfectly lawful and was never struck down. But now he's suing the IRS for $10 billion. He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which I think is around 80% of its annual budget, because his tax returns were leaked. And they were illegally leaked by a private contractor who actually is in prison now, Charles Littlejohn, but he wants $10 billion. Now, I want to ask you the question of whether you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for you to settle that $10 billion case or any of the other claims that the president has made against the government. He himself has remarked, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the deal, right? And he says, I kind of have to work it out with myself. Do you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for the president to work out a deal from people who are his subordinates under his unitary executive theory to get money in one of these cases?
I'm not going to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, so theoretically you're saying because his privacy rights were violated in that tax case, and they were. I'm with the president on that. I mean, his Mar-a-Lago thing is ridiculous, but there's no doubt that his tax returns, despite the fact that he promised to release them, despite the fact that every other president released the tax returns, he suffered embarrassment when it showed that he hadn't paid taxes for several years, and he had a right for that not to happen. Now, I want to turn back to the Epstein survivors, because President Trump may have been a little bit embarrassed by the release of those tax returns. How much do you think the claims of these survivors are worth? As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
With
And the rules.
obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time restored. I'd like my time restored.
In your district. In your district. And you don't even know about it, about keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. The gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this. Because this is the Attorney General of the United States, whose job is law enforcement. We've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before. We have only 5 minutes. And so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to
Excuse me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too. So, Ms. Bondi, the way it works is we ask you a question and you answer it. And if you go off on a wild goose chase, another tangent, you start reading statistics or you start talking about stuff going on in our district, and by the way, I invite you to my district. Come to my district, but that's not what we're here to do today. Okay, so, and you do that, then we're allowed to say we reclaim our time. At that point, you have to be quiet. You have no choice. You have to be quiet. So I hope you understand the rule at this point. Now, here's what I want to ask you. You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
Gentlelady can respond if she wants to.
Thank you, Chairman. He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own district who preyed on girls.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, you know what? If he were part of the Epstein investigation, you wouldn't do anything about it.
Online chat rooms and committed sextortion. Yet he didn't even know in your tiny little district who he was.
Mr. Chairman, she's embarrassing you.
He's about to be
This is your committee, and she is embarrassing
Shame on you.
The time.
Raskin brought up the Domestic Emoluments Clause. This isn't just some obscure rule. It's a constitutional firewall designed to stop a president from using the federal treasury as a personal piggy bank. Trump is suing the very government he leads for $10 billion. If Pam Bondi, his appointee, settles that case, the president receives a massive financial windfall from his own administration. That is the definition of a constitutional crisis. But watch Bondi's tactic. When she couldn't answer the law, she attacked the lawmaker. She tried to pivot to a local case in Raskin's district to shame him. It was a classic, look over there, move. The most revealing moment? When Raskin pointed out that Bondi's DOJ released the private, identifying information of Epstein survivors, the very people federal law is supposed to protect, while she's simultaneously fighting to protect Trump's tax privacy. The hypocrisy is staggering. Bondi is prioritizing the privacy of a billionaire's tax returns over the safety of sex trafficking survivors whose addresses she let leak. Jamie Raskin said it clearly. We have never had a witness so unable to conform her conduct to the rules of law enforcement. As we continue our democracy watch, it's becoming clear that the DOJ under this administration isn't acting as a shield for the people. It's acting as a sword for the president's personal grievances. Bondi's refusal to commit to a joint task force for Epstein victims tells you everything you need to know about her priorities. The 2026 midterms are the only way to restore the rules of the House that Bondi so casually ignored today. We are watching every hearing, documenting every deflection, and holding the line for the Constitution. Subscribe to Democracy Watch Daily. Don't let them move the goalposts in the dark. We're watching.